Alvin, do you want to introduce Ryan, perhaps?
Yeah, Ryan. Actually, we go back a long way. We met at CG Futures, which is a small conference that's based in Melbourne. It obviously hasn't been running for the last few years, but it was very sort of game VFX focused, and a lot of master classes. International people came, and it was supported by Noman, which is a very good VFX school and based in LA. And the team would come out, and I met Ryan. I don't know how many years ago that was, but he's since progressed. Since progressed in the gaming industry, and is now art director at probably one of the most well-known gaming studios in Australia. And it's been, you're going to get into this, but been on a very interesting ride in terms of listing on the stock exchange and going sort of places where gaming companies haven't been before. So Ryan, I'll let you take over and talk about your journey.
Yeah, awesome. I think we'll just kick it off by playing the Playside video intro, and then I'll kick it off from there.
Cool. Awkward pause.
Drum roll.
Where's your little man, Chris? Here you go.
Great. Okay, something's going to happen. Ryan, you with us still?
Oh, I was muted. Here we go.
There you are. There you are.
Can you guys see my screen? Is that sharing yet?
No,
it's coming up.
There it is.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool. I'll jump into it. Hey all, my name is Ryan McMahon, and I'm the studio art director at Playside Studios. In this presentation, I'll be giving you some insight into Playside as a company, our art team, and a little showcase of our latest game, Age of Darkness: Final Stand. So a little bit about me before we get too deep into it. As mentioned before, I'm the studio art director at Playside Studios. I joined the company back in 2016 with my first project being a game for the movie Live by Night by Warner Brothers, featuring Ben Affleck. The project had a fast turnaround and pushed me out of my comfort zone, and because of the situations like this, I've been able to grow quite quickly, overcoming lots of challenges over the years. It looks like it's bugging out with the camera there. Awesome. Since then, we've gone back. There we go. Since then, I've contributed to the development of over 30 game titles since joining Playside, with some projects being full start-to-finish development and others being a quick jump in for a few art assets and touch-ups. As well as that, over the past few years, I've been involved in growing our art team from a small team of 10 to what it is today. We now have roughly 30 or so artists from different fields of arts those areas being UI, animation, concept art, 3D, and technical art. Before Playside, my career started out with freelance, and I was involved with a lot of small contracts in both VR and AR simulations. These simulations would be mostly for training programs. With these programs, people would be able to put on a VR headset or go into AR and be run through a training program for a workplace. Essentially, a lot of large companies are starting to use this tech for training new staff. These simulations would run them through a workplace scenario where they would then be trained on how to deal with whatever situation is simulated in front of them. It's also being used quite a bit for ArcViz, which I know we've talked a lot about today in the 24 hours stream. So what people are doing, are they using this VR stuff to simulate situations for the workplace, or simulate even demos of new houses before they're built, which is really cool. And then as an artist in general, outside of working and career-wise, my background is primarily in real-time environments, materials, and lighting. So I spend a lot of time of my personal time honing my skills in that area specifically. Next slide. There have been a lot of amazing things I've been involved with over my career, and Playside has given me a lot of opportunities for growth and development. I've gone from a fresh artist in the industry with my first full-time position being at Playside to now being able to be in the position I'm in today. If I was to pick some of my favorite projects I've been involved with over the years, these three here would have to be my top three, but not easily by any means. I've worked on a lot of great projects, so it's been very hard to choose. The first one we've got here being Archangel Hellfire, which is a VR mech shooter. On that project, Playside was involved as an external contractor company assisting in co-dev. I worked as an artist, basically building out 2 environments for the game itself, as well as working with our team to set up the destruction systems within the game, which you would have seen in the video that played earlier. There was, you would have seen the character in the mech suit shooting each other, and there was a lot of destruction going on in the world. So in that, we set up all the destruction physics that played, and it all had to work at real time. So it's not like you shoot a rock or you shoot a bridge and it crumbles in a simulation. It basically will chip away at real time and formulate the destruction on the fly. And we had to create the pipeline and tech to do that using an Unreal Engine plugin called Blast that was pretty new at the time. And because it was new at the time as well, there wasn't actually any documentation on how to use it. So we had to work all that out on the fly and get it all up and running. And that's kind of become a standard. And I think Unreal's now actually developed their own destruction tool, which has replaced that as well. The next one being The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, which is another VR project in which we were an external team working with Skydance. Skydance has a film and game division, so we work with their game division on a lot of their VR work. Our mission here was to build out the initial gameplay sequence you see in the game, which was roughly 3 to 5 minutes of story and cinematic moments. Very similar to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, if anyone's ever been there. On this, my role wasn't as involved in the actual asset creation itself, like most of our projects. This was actually one of my first jobs in leading a team, so as a lead artist role, and I was responsible for overseeing our external art team in the creation of bringing Skydance's vision of this segment of the game to life, which was the cinematic intro moment, and most importantly, making sure our artists had what they needed to do the work. And then finally, our most recent title, which I plan to go into a bit more detail on later, Age of Darkness Final Stand. This is Playside's first PC title. It's not currently out, but is scheduled to release this month. The project was one of my first ones as the art director of the studio, and I've been heavily involved from start to finish and assisted in also overseeing the overall game vision. Feel free to jump in with questions as I go, by the way. So with this one, you can also see that there's a few more games I've worked on, just a collection of a few more of those games I've had the opportunity to be involved with. You can try and count them to see if we're actually hitting that 30 plus mark, like I'm saying, but I think that's all there. As you can see, it's a good mix of brand partnerships and our own internal projects. Cool. So enough about me. Welcome to Playside. Playside is a game development studio located in Melbourne, Australia. Playside has been around now for roughly 9 years, and over that period has released over 50 titles and formed contracts with large Hollywood studios and leading global influencers. Playside currently has over 90 staff in-house, well, I guess from home at the moment, but with that, we cover a broad range of skill sets ranging from design, art, code, audio, quality assurance, marketing, and user experience. So we make sure to get everything covered, and we like to do as much internally as we can. So over those 9 years, we've also been able to achieve a lot, such as growing the team size to what it is today. 9 years ago, I think we started with 5 or 6 people. Obviously, I wasn't around back then, but it slowly grew for the first 5 or 6 years. I think it went from those 5 or 6 people to maybe 20 to 30. And then over the past 2 to 3 years, we've gone from 30, 40 mark to 90, almost about to hit 100, I think, which has been quite significant. And there's a few reasons for that. With the proving global success of our titles, mostly hitting top chart positions on both the Apple and Google Play app stores, we've developed multiple massive #1 AR and VR products, similar to working with Skydance on Archangel and Walking Dead, which were massive at the time. And then also our own products like Zombie Riot VR, AR Dragon, which blew up at the time because AR was really new, and Apple just made it the main feature that they gave access to, and at the same time we released AR Dragon, which was basically you on your phone, you bring your camera up and you get a pet dragon that flies around in front of you, which was really cool. We've also formed partnerships with large Hollywood brands and influencers, and most recently, as Elwin mentioned before, listed on the Australian Stock Exchange as a publicly listed company last year. I won't go into that too much myself, but if you're interested to know more about being a public company and what that means for us, you can go over to our website and check out the Investor Center, as that will be able to tell you everything you want to know. So touching on the Playside partnerships a bit more, we have developed titles with some seriously large brands, partnering with the likes of Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Paramount, and many more. You can see this image on the right here showing that off. Recently this year, we've licensed both Legally Blonde from MGM and The Godfather from Paramount Pictures to create our own games with these brands. So what that means is we've gone to Paramount and MGM and actually purchased the license for those movie titles to make whatever game we want using their brand. And our involvement with them is they make sure that we're meeting their brand guidelines, but what we're doing with it and what game we're making, we have full control over, which is awesome. It's really exciting to do. Another big thing we've also started doing, which is a little bit different outside of working with large Hollywood brands, is forming partnerships with content creators and celebrities, such as Laserbeam, Fresh, the Norris Nuts, and Hollywood celebrity Thomas Middleditch. Alan, I know you have some questions around who are those people, so I can jump straight into an answer with that. So Laserbeam is a popular streamer with 18 million followers. He streams mostly video games such as Fortnite, and Fresh is the same, but with 7 million followers. The Norris Nuts is a YouTube family who have both a blog channel and gaming channel with a reach of 10 million followers. Their father, so the kid's dad, is also a famous Olympic swimmer, and that's where a lot of their fame started. And then Thomas Middleditch is the star of Silicon Valley, playing as Richard Hendricks, but outside of his acting career, he has a strong passion for games and is now working with us on making something cool. Again, here you can see some pictures of some of the titles we've worked on with large brands such as Jumanji, Ninja Turtles, Cars Lightning League, Lego Batman, and then Hatchtopia Life, which is a toy brand that's really popular with kids these days. And then jumping into the Playside art team. So before I start talking about the Playside art team, did anyone have any questions about Playside as a company?
Ryan, just to kind of touch on the influencers stuff again, like what do they? I mean, what do they do? Are they just posting on their social media platforms with promoting the games? Like, what's their involvement?
So their involvement is what you basically said, promoting the game and putting it to their socials and sharing it with their audience, which gives us a lot of reach on release, which is usually the marketing part's the hardest part when it comes to game development, because you can make a really fun game, but if it doesn't go to anyone, it's not going to do anything. So that's a really big one. But also with that, these influencers are generally the target audience that we're making the game for. So when we're making the game alongside them, they'll be playing the game all throughout the whole development, giving us their feedback, talking on behalf of their communities and saying what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see more of, what they feel is lacking in the gaming space or in this genre of that game. And we can work that into the game before it comes out. And then along the way, sometimes they'll get some community interactions and ask questions like, hey, if this a game like this was to come out, what would you want to see? And kind of get a gauge for what's missing in that space that we can then use in the game development process for release.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, it's definitely a big help. Awesome. So I guess Playside art team. with Playside's art team, it's been something that's grown quite a lot over the past 2 years, and it's become a hub of creative passion. We try to foster a fun, creative environment that supports growth and opportunity. We've got a large team now of 30 artists, from concept art, 2D art, UI graphics artists, animators, technical art, and 3D artists. A majority of our art is developed internally, with a small portion now being outsourced to external development studios. As we continue to grow, our art team's goal is to build a space where all artists aspire to work. It's basically our mission statement, I guess you could say, when artists come on board, is that we want to create a space that is fun, creative, but also when we make our art, we're trying to do something that will inspire other artists and give them passion to want to come work alongside us and make the games that we make. I remember when I was coming up in the industry, I feel as though everyone goes to this, where they've got their studios that they want to go to and they want to work at because of the art that they create and the workplace culture that gets fostered alongside creating that art that you see online. And I guess our goal is to create an art team that emulates the same feeling in new artists coming into the industry, or ones that feel as though they're looking for something new already, who have been around for a while. So one thing you would have noticed in our video that we played at the start is that there was a very wide range of styles. Playside's art team is highly versatile, being able to tackle a wide range of styles at a high quality. Our art styles range from low poly, hand-painted, stylized PBR, and realism. All our artists are able to generalize when needed, but of course we still allow people to specialize as well, because you can't really lose that. You got to have your specialists. You've got to have people have their strengths, rather than having their hands in every pot and not being able to have a strength. But outside of that, we still have the challenge of, even though I'm really passionate about doing real-time environments and materials and lighting, I can still go make a character when I need to. And at first, when I first got asked to do things like that, I struggled, and it took me a really long time, and I wasn't as fast as the other artists who may have found that as a strength. But over time, I've learned to be able to do it to a good enough state where I can, we're given the right pipeline, I can do that now. And a lot of our artists experience the same thing. And with that, it basically gives us the opportunity to keep things interesting. You're always learning, you're always being challenged, and you get to come to work and face, if I want to try something new, I get the opportunity to do that, which is great. We focus on creating methodical workflows and pipelines to help adapting to different art styles a bit. So, when someone comes up to you and goes, "Hey, I know you only really make realistic looking art, but I want you to go make this stylized cube game. Can you go do that for me?" That's can be pretty overwhelming, a little bit daunting. How do you approach that? So as a team, as an art team as a whole, we work together to create art design documents at the start of every project to condense every rule and influence behind each game style, and also do the research we need to do to make it as approachable as possible. And with that, we also come up with a lot of tools using Substance as well. So using Substance, we create texture generators, to help people be able to texture things to the same quality bar without needing really good hand-painted skills or needing to know the PBR workflow perfectly, which kind of goes to our next point, is that as an art team, we have a large toolbox. Working on such a wide range of products, it's crucial that we all utilize a wide range of tools to help speed up and unify production wherever possible. So you can see on the right there, we've got Maya, Substance, ZBrush, Unity, Unreal, Marmoset, Houdini, Photoshop, and V-Ray. So all these tools coming together, we jump between a bunch of them to unify our skill set, and also it helps us basically achieve the same level of fidelity in our art styles without needing to be the best stylized artist or needing to be the best realistic artist. As long as one person's been able to set up the pipeline and the workflow in achieving the final fidelity for that art style, we can use all these tools to allow any artist to get there, especially with the right documentation. Another interesting thing is that all our artists work directly in engine, whether it be Unity or Unreal. They see through the entire process of taking their assets into the game engine to get the best results. I know a lot of companies tend to have their artists develop the art and then pass it on to the developers and designers to implement in the engine. But we find that takes away from the artist being able to own what the end result of the game looks like visually, and it gives us a little bit more control over that fidelity. So that's been something we push on all our artists, and some people come in and they might be like, oh, why do I have to learn the engine, or find it a little bit daunting at first, but by the end of it, everyone learns to love it, which is fantastic. And it also helps them realize like how powerful it is to be able to work in the game engine itself.
Ryan,
As well
I hate to do this to you, mate, but we do need to hurry up to move on to Chris.
Oh,
as
do
well.
we? All right.
Thanks, pal. Yeah, thank you.
We can jump through this a bit. Let's jump on to the next part. So V-Ray, I want to touch on this real quick. Using V-Ray in games, we're able to do light bakes. So at first you might think, why do we use V-Ray in games? It's an offline renderer. What we actually do is we basically put our 3D environment into V-Ray. We do our lighting bakes in V-Ray itself. We output that into a texture map. We then bring that into the game engine with a custom shader, and then we apply that to the environment itself. Mainly do this in Unity because Unity's lighting setup is quite not as good for mobile, I would say, and this basically gives us more realistic results. And I've got another part on Age of Darkness, but we might skip over that. If we have more time later, we can play it, but I don't want to take up too much of Chris's time, so we might leave it there for now. Thank you, Chaos and Alwyn, for letting me have the opportunity to present this event. It's been great being able to give you guys a little bit of an insight, even though maybe I went into a little bit too much of an insight.
No, it's good. We're rolling over from everything that we've done so far. It's not particularly you. I think it's really interesting stuff, especially about the growth of the company and how you've managed to launch on the stock exchange, and also the influence from Hollywood and social media